Alright guys, Scrappy here, and I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So far, major drama last night in the Call of Duty League. Yesterday we saw the debut of a different weapon in the meta so far this season, with the MPC getting some use in addition to the Drazah and of course the M15. But overnight it seems the pros have gone crybaby cheese mode yet again. Octane says they're the worst group of pros in this regard we have ever had in the COD League, as seemingly basically every single team has officially decided to ban the MPC as of last night. Well, it's not official, of course. The gun is totally allowed in the CDL rule set. The players, it seems, have decided to GA it. Will the community backlash against this, which has been popping off over these last few hours, be enough to change their mind? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Some S&D Glenn glitch spots to start the video out here. We're going to start here really because the Huntsman boys, of course, some of those gentlemen are going their separate ways. This is Liam on the right hand side. He may be departing the Huntsman soon. We're actually not 100% sure. As we talked about yesterday morning, Zinni has negotiated this arrangement where effectively the Los Angeles Thieves have a month to decide if they want him in their starting team or not, and if they don't, then he goes back to being Huntsman player and total free agent if another team wants to go and get him. So loans are the talk of the town right now in the Call of Duty League. We'll see if this goes anywhere, but I thought this was a pretty nice image to see. Surge also finally confirms what's going on with TJ. I don't really know why this organisation does this sometimes, but everyone has known at this point for weeks. I mean, Bush literally announced that TJ was gone, so everyone knew that TJ was gone. They knew he was going to Surge, but yet they took 2 weeks to come up with this graphic, which, look, nice graphic, sure, but they take 2 weeks to make it, not so sure. Anyway, they are back in action. TJ Halley, welcome, the pioneer is here. We'll see. Don was talking on the flank last night that the Falcons, or the Ravens guys, sorry, discuss a little bit more of the Falcons in a second. Ravens, having brought in Exceed and also in their trials with Niam before that, they were frying. He reckons they were like 28 in one map count in scrims. Now, like, that was probably against some weaker opposition, but it definitely seems like, for all that I'm definitely still thinking, okay, how is this Exceed Ravens team going to do? You know, I'm not convinced they're Championship Sunday caliber quite yet, but I think they've seemingly got a little bit better at the very least. Can Surge do the same thing with TJ? That's an interesting question. Now, the coaches of the pro teams have been voting. easyMack tries to get this to happen every year. It's difficult to always get the coaches to vote on it, but he's managed to do it again this time. And we have a ranking, a power ranking of the teams right now in the COD League. So this is what the overall ranking looks like based on what the coaches have to say. OpTic in the S tier, like these tiers are arbitrary based on the numbers of votes we'll see in a second. But they've got Surge as the worst team. Ravens at 10th, Cloud9 11th. Then they had G2 just behind the Falcons, of course. Those two had a pretty close match yesterday. Then Boston, Heretics kind of almost best of the rest, as it were. But it is interesting that the teams in large part have Thieves down in 5th right now, behind Toronto, because those two teams play on Sunday tomorrow. And that's going to be a critical game, right? Because with all the talk about Thieves and Kenny and Niam and the future of that team, they need a strong run into Major 1 and they need a strong performance at Major 1. Right now they're considered B tier, effectively, with FaZe in 3rd. But OpTic got 121 points, so what, 11 coaches voted in this. They got 11 points, so everyone has them first, basically. Gentlemates in 2nd with 109. Then it's LA Thieves actually all the way down in 5th, so FaZe at 98, Toronto at 90, so relatively close, and then Thieves at 85. So considered significantly ahead of everybody else, but you've got Heretics at 65, then Boston at 57, Falcons 53, G2 at 45. So the coaches, at least in terms of the rankings that they came up with, kind of see it as like a top 9 with 3 teams kind of dangling off the back. But as we know, Ravens, they beat Miami yesterday, so it's certainly not as clear-cut as this. They had 26 points based on, and it was 22-21. So the coaches couldn't really split those lower 3 teams. They did have the Ravens as the best of them, and maybe that's been vindicated to some degree last night. Now let's talk about some of the drama though. Dashy, first of all, he might this year, if he competes at this year's World Championship and the next one, get to 11 because of the players that are remaining in the COD League competing. aBeZy's competed at 8 World Championships, assuming that Dashy doesn't retire after this year with Modern Warfare 4 on the horizon. He should be the first ever player to get to 11 World Championships, which is pretty remarkable longevity given that, yeah, Dashy is now the oldest player of the league, but it doesn't always necessarily feel like it. However, let's talk about what happened on the server. So the MPC was one of the key talking points of last night. Crump was using it on the Colossus. There's a couple of maps where it's viable. It's not viable absolutely everywhere, but we definitely saw this weapon get some serious use yesterday. However, Craze, after his series, he decides to turn up onto the broadcast and says in an interview like he thinks this MPC gun might be getting banned because this is what the pro players like to do. Now, I was gassing this up yesterday, and I think that most of the community pretty happy with this development, right? We've had a Drazah, which is a do-it-all gun, and an M15, which is a do-it-all gun, as the meta so far. I definitely prefer a meta where there is actually an SMG. Like, if anything to me, the M15 isn't the ICR, but like the Drazah is more of a flex gun than an SMG, really. It's like more of a kind of fast AR than it is an SMG as far as I'm concerned. And I miss having a gun like the Sorg, the VMP, among others, in the meta. And yeah, the MPC isn't quite like those guns, but it's not too far away. It also is not the easiest thing to use. Its iron sights are pretty clean, but they're like kind of clunky. It's not possible to just map someone easily at range. There's certain maps where it plays well, but it's certainly not a do-it-all gun. And this is what is so frustrating, again, about these gentlemen's agreement discussions, because I literally showed you guys last night Huke's class that he was running with it. People have realized in recent days this gun actually can be viable. Again, it just shows how poor these pros are at actually deciding what weapons are the best or not, because, I mean, it's hilarious to me. They literally play the beta, and within 24 hours, they're mostly using the M15 and the Drazah, so that's what we have to play with the whole year. Now, the SMGs weren't very good before some recent updates, but still, the MPC, if you ask pro players about the MPC a while ago, they'd say, nah, that gun's terrible, the iron sights are awful. All of a sudden, somebody starts to use it, and now it's apparently magically, like, way overpowered. Like, what are we talking about here, right? This gun is what an SMG used to be in some respect. It's good up close, it's going to beat the Drazah and the M15 at close range, it's going to be viable on certain maps, on certain hills, with certain players, but certainly not everyone's going to use it. I think that's what's so frustrating about these GAs. Look, they were talking about trying to get rid of the snipers, right? It's like, okay, the snipers are, as it turns out, allowed. You're only the 2 life rule and all this BS that they're still working with. But whatever you think about that, if the snipers were allowed with no restrictions, they would still be only one of them on a team, and they wouldn't be using them every round regardless. We've seen that play out time and time again. I'm in favour of a gentleman's agreement if, and pretty much only if, that weapon breaks the meta to such an extent that it's the only gun that is used, right? This is what the pros said was happening back in World War II. They brought out a weapon called the HyDra Burst. It was effectively an M8A1, like an M8 3-round burst weapon. As Octane's about to say in a second here, these pros were playing during Black Ops 2. I mean, wow, the M8 would have been banned. So many things in those games were perfectly fair game. Gentleman's agreement only started to become a thing from kind of like Advanced Warfare onwards, getting rid of like the Amelie, LMG and stuff like that. Back in Black Ops 2, people were using Remington shotguns. Back in Ghosts, people were using the Bulldog shotgun. BO2, people were using the Riot Shield. Well, Dashy was using the Riot Shield at the World Championship. Pretty rarely used apart from that. EMP grenades were all over the place. So many things. And I'm not saying that all of those things should necessarily be here. I'm not necessarily opposed to shotguns getting banned in competitive play. Like, I'm okay with that. And that is officially in the rule set now. But the HyDra Burst came into World War II. The pros said, whether we believe them or not, the pros said that there was 8 of them on a map in every single map that they played. And it's like, okay, if the gun is that strong and it's not officially banned in the rule set, but the game plays better because of its destruction, then okay, sure, I'm on board with that. But the MPC, we saw it last night. How many players did we see use it? Did we see it every map? No. Is it good? Sure. Was it incredibly prevalent? No, it's just a gun that seems to be a perfectly reasonable part of the meta. That's how it appeared yesterday, and look, maybe it gets stronger over time. We start to see more SMGs getting used. But I thought it was remarkable that apparently last night they had a vote on this in the GA chat, and they voted to get rid of it entirely. Octane says the current set of pro players got to be the most crybaby pussy set of players COD has ever had. The GA, the M8 in BO3, or I mean literally any game you can imagine. As Ake says in the reply, Slasher retired, and the very next day they GA'd the one gun that was used on only a couple of maps. The last of the old guard is officially gone. So maybe it's time to bring back the Slasher World League or something. As Hitch says, COD 4 would have been G36 and P90s, because they said, oh, the M16, wow, with stopping power, that's like, it's a 2-bullet kill. This gun's outrageous. The AK-74 used way too overpowered. Octane says BO2 would have just been knives only, right? Like ballistic knife and combat axe, right? That's all they'd have been running with. So, like, I agree with what CDL Highlight has to say on this. This weapon is not like a crazy OP gun. If it was a crazy OP gun, people would have known about it by now, right? But instead it's, Crimp decided to pull it out. He wanted to try the MPC. He could have saved it, and this is, again, the frustrating thing. You guys might remember the Volk that Vanguard Sparts used back in Vanguard at the Major 2, and they won that event with the help of that weapon. Now, the Volk was pretty powerful. Was it so dominant that it had to be banned? Even then, I'm not sure that was necessarily the case. But we saw this in Modern Warfare 19 as well. People bringing out the AUG, people bringing out the, what was that gun called? The Uzi, basically. And there was a couple of others. There was like an AR that Parasite liked to use as well in that game. Couple of other guns that were actually viable in Modern Warfare 19, but as soon as somebody tried them, because it wasn't what the other teams were used to using, they would just vote to get rid of it, right? And I think this is such the frustrating thing about gentlemen's agreements, that we know that teams make decisions in these GA chats, not based on what's actually in the best interest of the game and the community, for sure. Obviously, that doesn't even filter into most of their imaginations, but mainly based on what's good for them. But a lot of the time, what's good for them might be having the MPC allowed, but because they've been practicing with a different set of weapons, they feel like, well, we've got to try a different meta. We can't be bothered with that, so let's just ban it. And it's just an outrageous turn of events. Whether the league can do anything about this is the frustration with GAs. I'm not sure what the league can do. They can't force players to use a gun. I mean, what, if you ask Kremp about it next week in his post-game interview and he says, oh, well, yeah, I just wasn't feeling the MPC, right? Like, no, I mean, they're pretty blatant about it nowadays. The league will talk about the GAs and stuff, but you've got to feel like for something like this, there should be a conversation to be had, because this gun is not anything crazy. If Kremp would have saved it for the Major, then it would have been used during the Major and then banned immediately afterwards. But because he used it for one online qualifier match, now all of a sudden it looks like the gun's got banned entirely and probably won't even be used tonight. I mean, the GA seems to be in play. So, yeah, it was exciting to see a new gun in the meta, right? And I thought it fit in reasonably well. The M15 is kind of the do-it-all AR, the Drazah is the do-it-all flex SMG, and then there was actually a proper SMG that you could use on certain situations, but apparently that's not enough. So Dashy came out on, I think it was Dashy who said on stream, that Falcons were the only team that voted to keep it in. Everyone else wanted it gone. So, yeah, pretty remarkable. Again, where this goes from here, the community is not especially happy about this, and you could understand why. Whether Zuma or anyone else is going to be able to get a little bit of discussion had on this. Maybe the pros we saw this with the snipers a couple of years ago. The pros got put under serious pressure by the community, by the player base in general, to change things around. Because I was actually really enjoying this new look of the meta, and within 2 matches, I hope you enjoyed them while it lasts, it appears now to be gone. So, these are the matches of tonight. And there were some pretty big ones. OpTic play FaZe. That's the opening game of Saturday. And the other games are semi-interesting as well. I think Surge versus Boston's pretty interesting. Of course, we've got the brand new Surge team with TJ Halley. Boston, though, will be favourites. Gentlemate, of course, will be heavy favourites to take down Cloud9 last game of the day. But OpTic FaZe is interesting. There has been a lot of talk about OpTic's win streak in the league. It's now, I think, on the verge of getting to 12 wins. I think if they beat FaZe, they tie FaZe's record. Now, that is if you count EWC. and you may not. I think for the official CDL records, while EWC was obviously an official tournament, $1.8 million, it was CDL backed to an extent. It wasn't part of the official CDL calendar. So I think if you're looking from that perspective, OpTic's win streak is lower, and I think the way that the CDL will count it, they won't include the World Cup. So there's a little bit of debate on whether if OpTic win tonight, they really have tied the win streak record or not. I think the CDL will probably say no, but I'm intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.